Manhunter. These are the collected stories. They ran as a backup in Detective Comics from issue 437 to 443, 1973 to 1974. Manhunter, The Tale Behind the Tales by Archie Goodwin. The Manhunter series, represented here, began in Detective Comics 437 and concluded after 7 issues in Detective 443, covering a period from approximately July 1973 to August of 1974. Not a particularly long run as comic book features go, surpassing Brother Power, The Geek, but falling short, if memory serves, of It, The Living Colossus. Unlike those two characters, Manhunter never carried an entire book himself, appearing only in eight-page adventures that ran as backups to the lead character, Batman. This only changed in Manhunter's final appearance when he co starred with Batman in a full length 20-page story. All of this seems to be the stuff of serviceable obscurity. Instead, I think it combined to make Manhunter reasonably unique. In the spring of 1973, I was a freelance writer editor for DC Comics, packaging 3 war titles for them. The publisher, Carmine Infantino, wanted me to take a try at editing Detective, which was then in a period of low sales. These are not bad circumstances under which to inherit a title, contrary to how it may sound. One's encouraged to tinker, to tamper, and try new things, rather than preserving the status quo. If anything improves, you're a hero. If nothing works out, well, the book wasn't selling that well anyway. To demolish any possible suspense, I didn't become a hero. There was no turnaround in detective sales, but there was, as they say in show business, some artistic success. Manhunter was responsible for most of it. With my lead character, Batman, appearing in 2 other titles besides mine, and with an already well established stylistic foundation, I couldn't do anything too radical. He couldn't suddenly appear in a brand new costume, exhibit vastly different powers, or, with any credibility, burn the cape and cowl, swearing to be the Batman no more. None of the standard, let's try to get their attention and pump some more juice in this rag ploys. I didn't even have that second best option of killing off a beloved supporting character. They'd already done that to Alfred years before. Rest easy, death was only temporary. Any big change in the book then had to come in the backup feature. What I wanted was something that would fit, however loosely, within the detective format of the book, but contrast vividly in terms of mood, character, and artistic style with the lead stories. Something that would nail the eye of the casual browser and maybe eventually develop a following of its own, bringing the book in a few readers beyond the dyed in the wool Batman fans. In my pre Space Age youth, we usually played cowboys. Everybody wanted to be their favorite cowboy movie star. In those days, that was usually Roy Rogers or Gene Autry. For some reason, I shied away from the biggies. I was content to be Tim Holt or Buster Crabbe. I liked coming up with someone who wasn't a household word. It was the same way with comic book heroes. Let all my pals tie a towel around their necks, jump off the front porch railing, and yell they're Superman. I pulled part of my towel up over my head and became the Green Llama. I don't remember Simon and Kirby's Manhunter from that period, but when reprints later appeared in the New Gods, I knew he was my kind of guy. We grow older, we don't necessarily grow up. Beyond my fondness for obscure heroes, I like the title and like the concept of a hunter who turns his skills to hunting other men. Origin- Originating, I believe, with Richard Cornell's The Most Dangerous Game. Still, at the start, I had no particular inclination to follow or pick up on the earlier strip. I'd had a long fascination with Japanese comics featuring samurai and ninjas. With the martial arts boom just getting underway, I hope to incorporate some of that into my version of the Manhunter character. I wasn't the only one thinking along these lines at Marvel. Roy Thomas, Jim Starlin, Steve Englehart were developing Master of Kung Fu. I had some other vague ideas kicking around but I didn't have was an artist. Which brings us to Walt Simonson. Walt was introduced to me by a young writer, Jerry Boudreau. The two had worked on a fan project, The Outsiders, while Walt was attending the Rhode Island School of Design. After graduation, Walt decided to try working in comics for a while. I wasn't the first editor who saw his work, so I wasn't the first editor to use him. I think maybe I was the second. His samples, pages of the Star Slammers, a senior degree project, were good, but editors, like Hollywood producers, tend to typecast. Having shown science fiction samples, what Walt kept hearing was, the space stuff is great, but it looks like you're weak on doing people. Exhibiting my own special vision and foresight, I told him the same thing. Then I proceeded to assign him nothing but science fiction type material. Luckily, Walt wouldn't settle for that. He wangled a 3-page war comic filler with me concerning an incident during the Battle of the Alamo. It had gobs of people, horses, period, clothing, and weaponry, and a one panel overview of the battle itself. The completed jog provoked a flash of editorial brilliance. Instead of proceeding to assign Walt nothing but historical or Western material, I decided anyone who could draw that could draw anything and asked him to do Manhunter. I may have been slow, but I wasn't totally dense. Such is the stuff of editorial brilliance. From that point on, Manhunter was a total collaboration, far beyond any I write it, he draws it considerations. As a person, as a coworker, Walt is enthusiastic and at least 110% completely involved. He questions, suggests, provokes feedback and pondering, all generally punctuated with loud bursts of laughter and occasional sound effects. It's infectious, impossible not to respond in kind. He reacts to your presence, to your response. The contributions build, the job grows richer for it. While I was trying to hammer out a background for Manhunter, Walt went to work designing the costume based on a few suggestions and restrictions I was able to give him. That our man would sort of be a modern day ninja, and that whatever the design of the costume, it would be one of the primary hues in color, which would contrast with Batman and follow in the tradition of most commercially successful superheroes. The costume Walt created was essentially the one that appears in the printed stories, an elaborate, stylized variation on actual samurai garb. My initial reaction was that it was too bulky and awkward looking. I favored something sleeker, more form fitting. Walt went through about umpteen modifications and refinements, which only made Manhunter look a little more like every other super type. With few small changes, we wound up going back to the original. I also dragged my feet at first on the idea of our hero carrying a gun. It somehow seemed, well, unheroic. But as Manhunter's more or less mercenary background began to evolve, the gun seemed to fit. Besides, you can edit war comics as I've done and be totally immune to the aesthetic appeal of weaponry. And Walt draws that Mauser so well. Anyway, as we keep reminding ourselves all through the series when our thinking would wander away from the more commercial and traditional approach to superheroes, I was only a backup feature, so who cared if it didn't follow all the rules? While Walt was designing the costume, I came up with the business of Manhunter having been trained by the council and then turning against them, of him being given the healing factor and having been cloned. I'd also filled quite a few sheets of paper with possible alter ego names for him when he wasn't being Manhunter. Since I'd been inspired by the Simon and Kirby strip, I thought I'd pay a form of homage to it by using the name of the part of the character's name, making our Manhunter Paul something or Kirk something. Trying these on Walt, it became fairly obvious that Paul Kirk was just as serviceable as name as any I'd invented. We elected to go with it, since both of us have reasonably strong senses of continuity. Having picked up the name Paul Kirk, it became sort of inevitable that we would begin finding ways of trying our feature into the old one. Well, it didn't start out as even a consideration for the strip. That link up with the Simon and Kirby Manhunter grew into one of the major ingredients. I gave him an elaborate history which helped make him a much more solid character and ultimately even a poignant one. We decided from the beginning to work Marvel style. That is, I'd do a plot of the story as opposed to a complete script, which includes all panel directions and dialogue. Walt would break it down into page and panel layouts in pencil, I'd take this and add all the captions and dialogue, and Walt, once it was lettered, would then go into the inked finishes. For the first couple of episodes, I did pretty complete plots, typing them up in great detail, even amending them with my own layout and breakdown suggestions. It didn't take long to realize that this was pretty superfluous. By the third or fourth episode, we just get together for an evening and talk out plots, throwing ideas back and forth until the major points are ironed out or until we thought they were. Then Walt would go with it. An interesting thing began to happen. Manhunter began to grow amazingly complex. In part, this was due to the 8-page format. To keep a certain amount of visual, interesting things going on in each segment, we abandoned a straightforward linear approach to telling Manhunter's story. Skipping back and forth in time and points of view enabled us to create strong sequences of action and suspense without the more gradual build up and page absorbing approach we probably would have taken with a longer story. But beyond this, Walt and I became more and more involved with the character ourselves with each additional episode, lavishing more and more care and attention each time. Before long, Manhunter was just about the only thing Walt was drawing, and I was taking longer to write it than I spent on the Batman lead stories. Almost without realizing it, we were putting as much into the 8-page stories as would generally go into the then 20-page book-length stories being done. Part of the striking multi-paneled layout style that Walt used on the series grows out of the need to cram an inordinate amount of material into every page. Generally, multi-panels are used in comics to slow or break down and examine one or two given actions by fragmenting them into many small pictures. A 10 or 12 panel page from Walt will contain several full scenes, some even with crowds of characters and 3 or 4 separate actions. Even more amazingly, 9 out of 10 times it works. The page flows uncluttered, graphically dynamic. Not always as successfully, I tried to match all this in the writing, stripping it down to the bare minimum, breaking dialogue and captions to pull the reader swiftly from panel to panel and loading a lot of information into the big spaces when they'd come along, overloading on more than a few occasions. In an era of 5 to 6 panel pages, if we accomplished nothing else, we definitely gave the readers their money's worth in sheer density. We didn't do this without strain. Walt went through walking pneumonia and mononucleosis during the course of the series. I fell a month to 6 weeks behind schedule in every book I was editing and gained 15 pounds. I also fell victim to what can best be described as the greener pastures syndrome. About the time we finished Chapter 5, I decided to quit DC and take an editing job with Warren Publishing. When Julie Schwartz, who was going to take over editing Detective Comics when I left, decided he had no interest in picking up the Manhunter character, Walt and I were free to do what we wanted to with him in terms of wrapping up the series. Since I was parting on reasonably amiable terms, DC let me stay on until this was done. From the beginning, mail to the comic had included quite a few pleas to have Manhunter meet the Batman, and it was certainly something Walt and I had intended to do once we felt we had Manhunter well enough established. After using Chapter 6 to direct events toward a final showdown, we were set to bring down the curtain with the 20-page team-up story Gotterdammerung. If you can't be pretentious in the last issue, when can you be? Most characters in comics go on and on. It's good business. Even if their popularity wanes for a while, a new writer, artist team, a new editorial approach can often put them back in the black again. With licensing to other media becoming a bigger and bigger factor in comics, a company's characters all commodities. Their value can suddenly increase if the right party is attracted to them. If Manhunter had been anything but what it was, an obscure 8-page backup strip based vaguely on an equally obscure Golden Age character, Walt and I probably wouldn't have been allowed to bring it to the total conclusion we did. And if we had left the strip open ended, I doubt it would have achieved any of the impact and reputation that it has. We got lucky. We got a chance to do something very few people in mainstream comics got to do, and being very aware of this at the time, I like to think we milked it for all that it was worth. In 1973, the Academy of Comic Book Arts, in their annual Shazam Awards, picked the first Manhunter story, The Himalayan Incident, as Best Short Story of the Year. Along with Jim Starlin, Walt received the Outstanding New Talent Award. In 1974, Cathedral Perilous was voted Best Short Story, and Gotterdammerung was selected as Best Feature Length Story. Both years, I got the Best Writer Award. Now, years later, when we go to comic conventions, Walt still gets asked to do Manhunter sketches, and I still get people running up with issues for me to autograph. Not bad for a guy who got his reincarnation papers for the sole purpose of helping the Batman schlep a few extra copies of Detective Comics. Writers and artists tend to be a little uneasy about having their old work come back to confront them. Even if it's considered among their best, I don't think Walt or I have any such qualms about Manhunter. Mostly, it's just good to see him again under such pleasant circumstances. Archie Goodwin. Chapter 1. The Himalayan Incident. He stalks the world's most dangerous game, Manhunter. Nepal, in the shadow of the Himalayas, lies its capital, Kathmandu. Here at the city's great northern gate, where in older, simpler times caravans arrived from Tibet, sits Hajj the Ancient. Day by day, year after year, he is here, collecting sight and sound, tale and rumor, as some might rare coins or stamps. Those who would know of another's passing through the city come sooner, later to Hajj. So on this day comes Christine St. Clair of Interpol to ask one called Manhunter. An unusual name, Mem Sahib, heard with increasing frequency as events of the past 2 weeks become known. Law agencies all over the world have a growing interest in this man, Haj. Whatever you can tell us will not go underappreciated. Then I shall humbly strive to cooperate. How he came to Kathmandu, no one can say. He merely appeared in the Alley of Shadows, a place unknown to tourists, avoided by locals, even police, for it is the sanctuary of the cult of thieves, and they hold their privacy dear. You trespass, infidel, and neither mask nor strange raiment will win you welcome. I'd prefer no trouble. But I want one who fled to Nepal from a neighboring nation, and for a time found protection here. Our protection is given to few, infidel, and once given, honored to the death. Slay him. Kathmandu's master of thieves and his bodyguards are famed and feared. Each is a specialist in killing, each supreme in his specialty, until the visit of the one called Manhunter. I said I'd prefer no trouble. Your master, your friends didn't listen. Perhaps you will tell me where the man I seek has gone. Hush, this man is called Paul Kirk. Could he have been a stranger in the Alley of Shadows? Surely, Mem Sahib, that is a question for the cult of thieves. Yet this Paul Kirk appears similar to another I have heard about, one who came to a Sherpa village in the Himalayan foothills several days after the fight in the alley, and shouted out to the Sherpas in their huts. Someone from this village guided a certain man from Kathmandu into the mountains, to the Pendrang monastery. I seek that man. We've been warned of such seekers and how to deal with them. Yet, when they rushed forth to dispatch this interloper, gone. Indeed, gone, and after a search failed to turn up this stranger or his tracks, a rider was sent hurrying into the mountains. Certainly no stranger on his own could find the home of the Pendrang monks in its hidden valley deep in the Himalayas. To bring warning to the monastery, Kirk probably staged the entire scene so he could follow that rider. Perhaps, Mensahib St. Clair, I bow to Interpol's knowledge of such matters. Protected by formidable surrounding peaks, by walls massive as any fortress, and by their defenders to whom the faintest sound, the slightest movement cannot escape, whose very will directs their shafts, the legendary blind Zen archers of Pendrang. And certainly the rider did not reach his destination. He returned to his village, tied upon his horse unconscious, the slightest of bruises near a particularly sensitive nerve at the base, at the neck space. And that night, a visitor came to Pendrag Monastery, uninvited. The attack was well conceived, executed with swiftness and devastating economy, but these were the archers of Pendrag. To best one was a rare victory, two a miraculous feat, and three an impossibility. Meantime, in those dark hours, a man sat in the courtyard garden, meditating, awaiting the dawn, a man raised in the monastery as a youth, a man who'd gone forth to wander among people, high and low, thieves to princes, a man who touched many in his wanderings, a man who had now returned to this former home for sanctuary. Dharmata, finally, I've caught up with you, but at the cost of your life, it would seem. No, it only costs the monastery the services of three good men for several days to come. I die a little less easily than most men, Dharmata. But why does one so blessed pursue me? Because you, in your way, are a dangerous man. You almost roused the nation bordering Nepal to revolution. I was merely the voice of people's discontent with the tyrant. A disturbing voice, an idealistic voice, a voice that makes waves. Waves that might pound even India or China if your followers should try their revolution again. There are some who think it best if a calmer voice replaced the tyrant, and you. And so, these some have sent you after me. If that is my fate, so be it. But see, the dawn breaks. The monks come for morning meditation. It is a moment I greatly responded to as a youth. Follow me that one last time. No, Dharmata, I'm afraid I can't. It has been said since, in that moment, a storm seemed to break, a storm of violence and death, and that the eye of that storm was the one called Manhunter. These men, they are not monks. They are ones sent to slay me, but their faces, each looks exactly like you. I understand none of this. What is your part? And there was the sudden rustle of a tree branch and only falling blossoms. To show Manhunter had ever been there at all, Mem Sahib St. Clair. I must know more, huh? She sent those assassins. And Manhunter, what happened to him? Is he still in Nepal, in India? I cannot tell, Mem Sahib. Such a man is like the breeze in hottest summer. It comes, it goes. Who can say where or when it will next appear? Very well, Haj. If you learn anything else, contact me, care of Interpol. The end. Chapter 2, The Manhunter File. He stalks the world's most dangerous game. Zurich, World Banking Center and home of Interpol's Information Central. Also home of Interpol agent Christine St. Clair. But she has not returned to visit her friends or family. Her pursuit of the mysterious figure called Manhunter has been interrupted by her superior, Damon Nostrand. Interpol's function is as an information exchange between world police agencies, Christine. Unless you've got something of dire global consequence in this file of yours, I can't justify keeping you in the field on one case. Now, this first item, my latest report, Damon, you'll recall I lost Manhunter in Nepal. A week later, I picked up the trail in Calcutta. Apparently, he'd made arrangements to escape the country hidden in the hold of a fishing vessel. But others had arranged for that hold to be a death trap. No one can fight a tiger barehanded, but Manhunter's costume slowed slashing claws until he could draw upon one of an apparent arsenal he carries, the Bondi dagger. Rumor has it that Jahan Hill's tribesmen can beat best lions with such a dagger. Trapped in that dingy ship's hold, Manhunter took the rumor and lent it truth. Watching the animal die, my informant claims, he seemed to experience regret, an emotion noticeably lacking when he faced those who unleashed the tiger. I found the boat in Burma, abandoned, and no trace of Manhunter. Lord, you make him sound like some manner of pulp hero, Christine. Lively reading, but not the stuff to justify continued investigation. Damon, if you study the file from the beginning, I think you'll see a disturbing pattern emerge. It started here in Zurich. File 007X9, preliminary entry. Following incident brought to Interpol attention, subject Paul Kirk, he appeared January last at the Banque Internationale to withdraw funds from a numbered account. Monsieur, if you joke, it is in bad taste. Paul Kirk was killed in 1946. A hunting accident. The body was never recovered. Nice to be remembered, but a simple fingerprint check, confirmed ID, should prove reports of my death are somewhat exaggerated. Incroyable. But after 30 years, how can you look as you do? Long story. Let's just say the thought of all that interest accumulating kept me young. You couldn't guess we'd know of this account and be waiting? Not smart, Mr. Kirk. To tell the truth, that possibility did cross my mind. Now then, I believe I had some money coming? Kirk would press no charges. Police were not summoned. The attackers fled, and the subject soon vanished. Your father's a director at Banque Internationale, correct, Christine? That's how you learned of the incident and eventually brought the investigation of this Kirk to us. But what connects a man presumed dead for 30 years and your elusive manhunter? You'll see with the next item, Damon, Manhunter's first appearance. File 007X9, Entry 1. The attempted assassination of Sheikh Rashid Ben Turan. Oil made Rashid rich, powerful, able to play Eastern and Western Bloc nations against each other for personal gain, adding unneeded fire to the already explosive Middle East scene, and making himself a target as he toured his holdings by limousine. The assassin whirled to turn his weapon on whoever had deflected the grenade from Rashid's car. It had been done with a Japanese shuriken, a star-shaped throwing blade that in an expert's hands can be swifter, deadlier than a rifle shot. Manhunter was gone before anyone could reach him. Detailed description of the slain assassin by Rashid's bodyguards indicate it was Paul Kirk, but further verification is impossible as the body was apparently stolen en route to the local medical examiner. Good Lord, am I to make sense of this, Christine? And what's in this next entry? Further reference to Kirk? How can that be if he was the assassin? It gets more confusing, Damon. That third report is from Brasilia. What's described happened 1 week after the attempt on Rashid. File 007X9, Entry 3. The abduction of Raul Salazaro. The noted South American scientist, whose genetic research had recently won headlines, was assembling notes for publication when intruders burst into his penthouse home. Quickly stunning Dr. Salazano and dragging him out upon the apartment's terrace, where they coolly surveyed the night sky, patiently waiting, not sensing their mistake. You, again, expect it. It's going to happen often. And the combat began. Every action of Manhunter, from stalking to fighting, indicates training in ninjutsu. Damon, the Oriental spy art developed in medieval Japan, which involves mastery of nearly 20 separate martial arts systems. How Manhunter received such training is a mystery. Asano Nitobi, last living master of ninjutsu, died in the A bombing of Nagasaki in 1945. Yet, this night, Manhunter showed the superiority only a Nitobi trained student could, until their pickup copter. Salazano, down behind the terrace wall before. Signor! Stay put, Doctor. Takes more than that to finish me. And if I can get this stock attached before that chopper gets us, there won't be any more. Manhunter's pistol appears to be the 1916 model Mauser, but has very obviously been specially modified for use today, as has its ammunition. In the confusion following the helicopter's destruction, Manhunter escaped. Wounded by machine gun fire, it's incredible he could even move, Christine. With all his other talents, he seems to possess almost superhuman powers of recovery, as well as the fingerprints of Paul Kirk, according to Brazilia's police. What? A dead man? Yet he keeps reappearing. Now a hero, now an assassin? Sometimes both, Damon. One of Salazano's abductors also seemed to have Kirk's prints, but his body vanished from the morgue before it could be double checked, just as the first time. And other times, all documented in the file, Manhunter and his look-alike foes keep clashing all over the world. Afterward, evidence, including participants' bodies, conveniently disappears. Damon, this is a secret conspiracy at work. And to do what they have means agents in key places. Christine, you've just talked yourself into a special and rather nasty assignment, I fear. Then I'm free to go after Manhunter? I have a lead in Marrakesh. Follow it. I'll clear things here. Meantime, report to me exclusively. If this thing's widespread as you fear, we can't be too careful. Goodbye, Damon. You'll have my first report soon. Farewell, Christine. I'll see it and the rest of the file all properly dispatched. The Resurrection of Paul Kirk. Part 3. The Resurrection of Paul Kirk. He stalks the world's most dangerous game, Manhunter. Marrakesh. To its night-shadowed byways, Interpol agent Christine St. Clair has come in her worldwide pursuit of the enigma known as Manhunter. From a whisper overheard in Rangoon to a chance word dropped in Cape Town, she has followed a chain of information gathered piece by scant piece until the trail of her mysterious quarry brings her to this sprawling maze of connecting alleyways, courtyards, and rooftops where suddenly, abruptly, it ends. Miss St. Clair, been wondering when you'd arrive. Forgive me if I don't stand up. You need a doctor. I need time. Time to heal. You can help me buy it. There'll soon be others along to finish what those gentlemen decorated the alley started. Take this. But I don't know who you are or what you're really up to. Keep watch, Christine, and I'll try to tell you. In the late 30s, I was just Paul Kirk. Young, affluent, a big game hunter, perhaps the best. Unchallenged as a hunter, I sought more dangerous game and found it in criminals. Donning mask and costume, I became Manhunter. But by then, there was war. At government request, I retired as crime fighter to turn my skills to secret behind the lines jobs, violent and deadly. Dirty and ugly as well, all sense of adventure died for me in the war. Weary, revulsed, I came to Africa in '46, meaning to pick up my old life, and found that I couldn't. What had been what had been short now seemed senseless and brutal. Intentionally, I missed my shot, but the sound carried into the brush and brought a startled half mad bull elephant charging out. My party fled, but there was no chance for me to run. I brought my rifle up, a frantic gesture, made much too late. The world was blotted out in a crimson haze of pain, and the last thing I heard was the sound like the wings of the angel of death flapping, beating as she drew near. Then I died. Yet, you're here now, Manhunter. Hurt, but hardly. You're good, Miss St. Clair. Very good. I'm trained to be, though from what I've uncovered, you've been trained even better. I'd hoped your story covered how and why, but as I recall, you just died. They say, Christine, the dead don't dream, but I did. And in that dream, the angel of death became a machine of silver swooping low to carry me away, held fast in a frozen embrace. Is this justified? We're too late. Yes, he's lost to us. But for now, but never forget, we're just beginning. Then those dreams in my chill, deep slumber turned into nightmares. A grotesque parade of history gone mad. A newsreel bez- berserkly unwinding, revealing a world I died too soon to see. Until, welcome back to the living, Paul Kirk. I'm healed? How? It has taken almost 25 years. While you lay frozen by cryogenics, memory tapes playing to your subconscious, countless operations were done as medical and technological advances made them possible. Now, you are more than healed, Paul Kirk. Thanks to our breakthroughs in genetic surgery, you are, shall we say, improved. But who's done this? You seem familiar, and yet you rescued me from the Nazis in 45, Paul. I've aged, you haven't. Recall now, I'm Dr. Micros, and this is the sanctuary from which the Council operates. Being brought back to life already impressed me, Doctor. Isn't all of this gilding the lily? Just what is your council? Basically, an organization of the world's top minds. 10 of us banded together near the end of World War II, when the creation of the atom bomb made it obvious man could now eradicate himself and his planet. We've dedicated our skills and advanced knowledge to seeing this doesn't happen. With pollution, overpopulation, racial and territorial strife, no small task. Nonetheless, the Council's goal is to save the human race from itself. The Council must have a rival with opposite intentions, Manhunter. These people seem to feel two parts of the human race shouldn't survive. Us. Who are they? Why do they look like me, Christine? I guess we're all brothers of sorts, and they're not from any rival organization. They're the Council's enforcement branch, the branch I was frozen and preserved a quarter of a century to head. And here they are, Paul. Looks pretty warlike for a group devoted to preserving the world, Dr. Micros. Time is running out for mankind. When possible, the Council works peaceably, manipulating events behind the scenes, but when nothing else will do, then we must use your special branch. And what if the Council uses it wrongly? My boy, you're talking about the best minds of an era. We're talking about humans, the same people you're afraid will. Hey, seen close, these men duplicate you perfectly for a perfect fighting force. Clones, an army wrought from the cells of your body. And here is the man who will train you and them to gain the most from already superior natural talent. Asono Nitobi. Nitobi, he's a legend to any martial arts student, but he died in the A bombing of Nagasaki. No, in 45, Asano was bodyguard to Dr. Oka, a genetics expert secretly recruited by the council, which got them out before the blast. I'm afraid no one's getting us out, Manhunter, unless that's the last of those clones, because that is the last of our ammo. Time will tell, Christine. Funny, that was how I felt about the council. I owed them my life. Their aims seemed high. Why not cooperate? Any abuses would eventually come out. Meanwhile, I had the privilege of learning from the last living master of ninjutsu, the Japanese spy art which involves mastery of almost all other martial arts systems. And in the months of training that followed, we too who in the past would have been foes, became friends. Until today, Paul, you are ready for your task. After this final test, enter. Through the skills of my master, Dr. Oka, you are not merely healed, but improved. And now, the proof. Concentrate. Turn your mind from the pain as you were taught. The wonder wrought by genetic surgery will do the rest. The bleeding stopped, the wound's closing. The time this takes will vary with the size and seriousness of the wound. So, you are not invulnerable. But if the injury is not to heart or head, the probability is that you shall survive. Now, your first mission, my pupil, the elimination of a certain Interpol officer. Elimination? Asano? Or assassination? I think I should speak with the council. Do so, yet remember, in the tiger's lair, the only justice belongs to the tiger. Manhunter, it's still quiet. Could I really have gotten them all, or... Christine, it's Damon Strand. Don't fire, I'm coming up. What? My boss from Interpol? Here? Damon, thank heaven, you're just in time. Yes, I rather thought that'd be your reaction. A bit foolish and fatal. Not so much as failing to assume I'd recover and you'd run out of clones. My superior, one of them? Manhunter. That assassination. You killed an Interpol official, so Damon could replace him. There's more to my story, Christine. Hear me out while we go after Mr. Nostrand. Next, Rebellion. Chapter 4 Rebellion. He stalks the world's most dangerous game. Manhunter. This man is Damon Nostrand, and here in the maze-like byways of Marrakesh, things are falling apart for him. A high official in Interpol, he is actually agent for the secret organization known as the Council, and he has failed in serving them. Wounded, pursued by those he meant to eliminate, Damon Nostrand is about to gamble everything in a bid to destroy Christine St. Clair and Manhunter. Down, Christine. Manhunter, the alley widens down there. He'll turn around for another. No, I don't think so. Horrible. Yet, as my boss at Interpol, Damon was using information I gathered to locate you to try this. I suppose there's irony in the way it worked out. Much more than you imagine, Christine. It goes back to when I finished training to become head of the Council's enforcement branch and questioned my first assignment. With my instructor, Asano Nitobi, I came before this group of geniuses who'd quite literally raised me from the dead, and facing the spokesman, I was frankly awed, Paul Kirk. Most are their first visit to the council chamber. Dr. Micros, you told me the organization was founded back in 1945 by 10 men, yet I only see 9 survive, my boy. Heart attack took Dr. Oka, our genetics expert, after he enjoyed 2 successes. The healing factor his genetic surgery gave you to fight off wounds, and our combat force of clones grown from the very cells of your body. But Oka's death denied us his greatest breakthrough, that which would allow us to live to see all the Council's aims achieved, the conquest of aging, life eternal. Instead, we, the best minds of an era, must fight a slow retreat against time, seeking refuge from its ravages in our suspended animation capsules, taking turns as a group spokesman who, through this psionic helmet, maintains mental contact with the others. Still, we do not give up. Others approach, Oka's brilliance, and soon. But I digress. You had some problem, my boy. Doctor, I'm ordered to kill an Interpol official. That hardly seems in keeping with your goals to keep humankind from destroying itself, Paul Kirk. And so close is it to doing so at this point in time. Any extreme measures we nine decree become totally justified. We are experts, giants in our fields. Our collective knowledge and vision can save the world. But we must be trusted, obeyed without question, especially by the man who wears the red uniform of leader of our enforcement branch. Is that clear? It was clear, Christine, clear that time did work against the council, but not because it aged them. Time had taken their dedication and eroded it, turned it into self serving fanaticism and madness. I started to shout back, but instead only nodded and walked from the chamber. Pent up anger, like a faulty bomb, often explodes when we can least afford it. A final practice session, Paul? I vow to my master, Dr. Oka holds me in service here. No such loyalty binds you. It would be easy to explode now, refuse to obey the council. Except then, I would have to slay you, and we are much too good friends to let that happen. Sano made clear what had gradually been dawning on me. There were only two ways out of the council's hidden sanctuary. You went with their approval to carry out their orders, or you died. My anger worked out in the session with Asano. I picked method one. We approach the gateway. Your helmet will activate, cutting off sight and sound. The sanctuary's location must remain secret. So, deaf and blind, I re entered the world after the 25 years it had taken the Council's science to recall me to life. When the helmet was removed, I was en route to London, and the tasks that waited in a lush suburban apartment complex. No sound, friend. I've been sent to kill you, so it's in your interest to listen, not talk. Some gentlemen whose egos have gotten the better of their intentions think an agent of theirs should replace you at Interpol. I couldn't do anything until now, but by choosing to do so, you failed our little test. I'm Damon Lestrand. The council placed me with Interpol long ago, old man. Now I fear these gentlemen you were to have led must eliminate you. Clones! Then I began fighting for my life. In strength, in skill. The clones equaled me, yet nothing in their artificial creation duplicated the lifetime's experience which had shaped me. And with that small but crucial edge, I lived to fight another day. My war with the Council was begun, Christine. Your Interpol files must cover what has happened since, except for one visit I made to a safari outfitter in Nairobi. Mr. Kirk, my father said to expect you. You look very much like him, Kolu, in the old days when we hunted together. Times have changed. I sell equipment to whites, but not my personal services or my loyalty. I paid your father for being my guide. His loyalty I think I earned. So does he. That's why I'm cooperating. And you're seeing what no tourist ever has. The safari shop's a front. Quite right. My true work is down here, manufacturing arms for the various rebel groups I support. Your money eventually put me through Oxford, Kirk, and enabled me to study with the finest weapons makers of Europe and the Orient. And Kolo Mubaya proceeded to demonstrate how well he'd learned his craft, or rather, considering the results, his art, by creating the unique arsenal I specified. Silencer, shoulder stock, 1916 Mauser throwing knife, including a new super strong alloy for all weapons and the bulky but protective garments for carrying them. Tunic, harness with holster, throwing stars, Bundai dagger. With these, plus the basic red uniform I meant to flaunt in the council's face, I became the new Manhunter. And tonight completes an ironic circle, Christine. While battling the council, I've actually fulfilled that first assignment they gave me. Fulfilled it for real. Listen, the police are coming. Wait, something of Nostrand's was thrown clear. His hotel key. What? A priest's habit? Flight reservations to Istanbul? They must be clues to Damon's work for the Council. I can give it all to Interpol. They'll help. He won't fight alone any. Better guess again, Christine. Your ex-boss took steps to cover the dirty work he planned to do here. A little last laugh from the late Mr. Nostrand. The end. He stalks the world's most dangerous game, Manhunter. Istanbul, gateway between Europe and Asia, in the ancient northwest section, where walls of old Constantinople still stand, on an obscure square near the Bosporus, is the little known Romulus Cathedral, built during the time of Byzantine Emperor Justinian I on an old execution ground said to be cursed. A history of madness and heresy seems to have plagued the cathedral through the ages. One bishop was burned at the stake for witchcraft in 951 AD. Another was instrumental in betraying the city in the Crusaders' invasion of 1204. Both Eastern and Western churches in time disavowed themselves from the Romulan order. With the Turkish conquest of 1423, the cathedral fell into obscurity and disrepair until today. Cathedral Perilous, Chapter 5. Another mosque, Henry. I thought we'd seen everyone in the city. This is a church, Emma. Long as we stumbled onto it, might as well look. Hmm, guidebook doesn't say much. Since 48, something called the Romulus Historical Society has been trying to restore the place. Pow, pow. Do you think it's open, Henry? Well, those monks or whatever are sure going in. Come on. Hey, Dad. Not so loud, Nico. Place may be falling down, but it's still a church, son. Got another flash cube, Emma? But, Dad, where did those two monks go? They were right in front of us. No great mystery, Nico. They just went on into the main chapel, like we're gonna do. This one also had a membership card in the Romulus Historical Society, Manhunter, just like we found in Damon Lestrand's room in Marrakesh. Pray whatever the council's doing here can be recorded as evidence, Christine. Otherwise, those trumped up wanted posters Lestrand issued before he died will be hanging over us a long, long time. Hey, Dad, now those monks are behind us. How? Shh, Nico, show some respect for the surroundings. How about snapping me in front of the altar, Emma? You two are late. Rear door, up the stairs. By golly, Em, the place has all kinds of nooks and crannies. Let's. People. Clergy only through here. Hey, Dad. Come on, son, you heard the man. Two more arrivals. Once the Strand is here, we can contact the council via the gateway. What's keeping Damon? Yes, the longer I wear this get-up, the sillier I feel. A trifle more respect for the cloth, please. We're all men of some importance. Our comings and goings rarely pass unnoticed. But who would look for any of us in the garb of a priest or monk? Hence, the gateway. It's being activated from the sanctuary side. Dr. Micro's coming to us? An honor, or else trouble. Click. Manhunter. What? Some kind of matter transmitter. Gentlemen, the Manhunter problem. The reason for this meeting being called has just become an emergency. Our agents in Marrakesh report that Damon Lestrand, sent to dispatch Manhunter, has himself been dispatched. Then, I take his place, head of the council's second line. There is a problem in you assuming Nostrand's mantle. We will discuss it privately. Care is called for. If I or any original council member die, you inherit the position. Something always keeps one of us out of the inner circle. Why? Our wealth, our positions support the council. When do we share in the life prolonging, the genetic improvements you promised? Dr. Oka died. Why has no one replaced him? Oka was a brilliant genetic scientist, but he lacked vision. His inclusion in the council was a mistake. He actually began to feel the other nine of us were placing personal interests above our original goal of saving mankind. Not unlike our other disappointment, Manhunter. When Oka refused to share further of his discoveries, it was necessary to eliminate him. To prevent discord from spreading to the lower ranks, we made his death appear to be a heart attack. All of you can understand our action, but others might. There's a recording device in this room. Seal every exit. All hell's about to break loose, Christine. When it does, get out with that tape. No need to search, Micros. I'm right here and ready to seriously impair your ability to continue saving mankind from itself, unless those clones step aside. Do as he says. Thanks. The gateway. I'm trapped outside the sanctuary. Kill him and get that tape. Bang, 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 bang. Dad, catch up, Nico. I want you in this next shot. Smile, Emma. Roof is a dead end. But down the stairs I can. Damn. The tape. He hasn't had a chance to hide it. So, it's ours. For the taking. Except, there's no recorder and no tape on him. What? Then, the St. Clair girl, escaping the church. He decoyed us away. Get her. Finish, Manhunter. I must see if those cretins can do something right. Okay, let's see how well your healing factor works with your head gone. Puck? Nico? We've been looking all over for you, young man. Just wait till we're back at the hotel. But Dad? Escaped. Gone. Manhunter. Even the girl. And most importantly, the tape. Perhaps not, Dr. Micros. Should you reconsider any problem in my assuming Nostran's place is next in line for the council, I can practically guarantee getting that recording from Christine St. Clair. After all, I am her father. By golly, Emma, today's convinced me. You're right. Mosques, cathedrals, after a while, they all look alike. But Dad, the end. He stalks the world's most dangerous game, Manhunter. Japan. Around the hot springs of the Matsuwa area, many resorts have grown since World War II. Some are quite secluded and exclusive, but none more so than this one, for it is used by those who serve that mysterious organization known as the Council. And tonight, the lights of its private landing strip gleam brightly for an eagerly awaited flight direct from the Council's secret headquarters. Also eagerly waiting, the Council's one time servant, but now sworn enemy, Paul Kirk, Manhunter. Chapter 6 To Duel the Master. There, Dr. Micros, soon you'll be back in the sanctuary. And knowing that Manhunter's chance destruction of our matter transmitter puts you to this inconvenience. Manhunter does nothing by mere chance, but neither does the Council, as he shall soon learn. Come, gentlemen, the plane awaits. Well done, my pupil, but you will not need the clone's uniform, for you shall not be boarding Dr. Micros' flight. Asano, So the good doctor guessed I'd be tailing him to learn the sanctuary's location. He might also have guessed the information I gained in Istanbul would free you from your vow to serve the council. And that information was also recorded, placed on tape. Tape that 2 days before this encounter was being carried to Interpol HQ via the Orient Express, carried by Manhunter's ally, Christine St. Clair, then several miles from the stop at Sofia. One moment, my friend. The main point in paying for a private compartment is so one can have privacy. True, Signorina. But after all, you did use one of my credit cards. Daddy, how did you get here? You should be in Zurich at your bank. Indeed, I should, my dear. But with your going from respected Interpol agent to wanted accomplice of Manhunter, what's a father to do? You can stop worrying. Those are trumped up charges. I've gotten proof which should clear Manhunter and me. Ah, yes, the tape. You couldn't know that unless I was at the meeting you recorded. My God, Daddy, you're about to rise to the Council's loftiest ranks, Christine, once I give them back that silly tape. You don't need it. Through the Council, I can fix anything, which is more power than any organization should have. That's why Manhunter's fighting, Daddy. No more, Christine. He'll be destroyed by the man who trained him. Asano Natobi? Not when Manhunter reveals the Council killed his master, Dr. Oka. But Asano lives in the sanctuary. He's been steadily, subliminally brainwashed to disbelieve anything told him by his friend, Paul Kirk. You sound proud of that, Daddy. It makes me ill. Christine, I lose patience. Power, prolonged life. The Council can grant it and more. To me, to you. But first, I must give them that tape. Agents are waiting. Don't make me. Shoot? Your own daughter? If that's what it takes to be a force in the Council, better do it. Because I'm jumping off the train now. With the tape. I think it's what the man who raised me would want me to do. And I also think you're still that man. Moments later, brakes squealing, steam hissing, the Orient Express pulls into Sofia, and the passenger steps off to begin a long walk, terribly, terribly alone. Blam. But that was 2 days ago. Now, here in Japan, death looms again as Manhunter finishes telling his former instructor of the Council's deception, and hears in return, I would like to believe you, Paul, but I cannot. Then, any further talk prolongs that which is inevitable. Sooner, later, I would still don this, the traditional battle mask of my ninja clan, for I have been charged with two tasks. The safe departure of Dr. Micro's Marks 1, and the other begins now, my pupil. Ninjutsu, the Japanese spy art encompassing nearly every other martial arts system, and Asano Natobi is its last living master. To duel him and live, a man, even a man genetically improved, granted a healing factor, must draw upon every weapon, every resource at his command, and even then, it may not be enough. But Paul Kirk is a man who has survived much, torn by death from his own era, thrust by super science into a time no longer his. He has survived, for he is a hunter. The Council, his prey. And while that prey remains at large, a hunter must fight on. You have learned well, Paul. Foremost lesson, any advantage over a skillful foe must be quickly pressed. But skillful is a woefully inadequate description for Asano Nitobi. No, if there is an advantage in this battle, it is in mere years of training pitted against that of a lifetime. A difference that ultimately can mean a broken limb or perhaps life and death. I am proud, Paul. No man ever fought better against me. Now I must honor your effort with the swiftness, the trueness of my killing stroke. Asano Nitobi, I know you're in the vicinity. Before you act, listen. This is Christine St. Clair. Japan's police are cooperating with me to keep you from a tragic mistake. I understand that you cannot believe Manhunter, but hear Dr. Micro speak of the man in whose memory you continue your allegiance to the Council. Click. A brilliant genetic scientist, but lacked vision, actually began to feel we were placing personal interests above our original goal of saving mankind. When Oka refused to share further discoveries, it was necessary to eliminate him, to prevent discord spreading to the lower ranks. We made his death appear to be a heart attack. And the amplified words have their effect, so that no others are spoken or needed until he'll be all right with time to rest and heal. When that time is over, let the council beware, for I vow to fight beside you and make our next battle the final one. Next, Gotterdammerung. Prologue. Rain, the waterfront, a floating body. Familiar elements to Commissioner Gordon, but always grim ones. And this night, more grim than usual. We got him, sir. I suppose there's no mistake. I took that martial arts course he and Batman gave at the police academy. It's Dan Kingdom, all right. Who'd think it? Ex-Green Beret, ninth degree black belt? Good, but not against a shotgun. Use the bat signal. We've got to tell... Sir, he's here. Batman, how? Dan sent word to meet him. He felt he was on to something involving the Prime Minister of Congola. Why, there's a party honoring his visit at Bruce Wayne's mansion. Whatever Dan learned, its cost got them a fine private detective and me a best friend. That mustn't be for nothing. Much of the year, Wayne Manor is dark, but not tonight. Tonight, lights burn for this man, Nadeli Kashambo, Prime Minister of the new African nation, Congola. A land once enslaved by military dictatorship. Now, after long, bitter fighting, he and his people are free. Batman. Timing for the assassin? Perfect. For the Batman? Awful. Reappearing as Bruce Wayne. Now he races for his barely abandoned cape and cowl. Now he moves toward the beginning of a bloody trail to Gotterdammerung. He has moved with a swiftness, a sureness few mortals could, but the Batman takes no satisfaction in it. Too late. Again. Didn't reach Dan Kingdom in time to help, and now Kashambo. Murdered in my own home. Then all thoughts are gone, and there is only a killer to bring low. Enforcer, he's got me. That devil bad's got me good. Yes, but not for long. The voice, muffled within the mask, is restrained. The blows that follow are not. One is an offbeat variation on the leopard's paw knuckle strike and meant to kill. It fails only because the Batman has faced it before, can roll with it slightly, still, for a moment, its use stuns him. And against skilled, well-organized foes, even a moment makes a difference. But for someone that good, they've made a very bad mistake. The assassin's weapon is not an ordinary one, and it is untraceable by ordinary means. But this is the Batman. He and his sources are not ordinary. I'm clean, crime fighter. Sure, Mole. Like your bookshop. But I'm not here to hassle you. I want information about this. Say, that's merchandise spanking new and specially crafted. few crates of these, and I'd never have to schlep another used book. No, but you'll schlep a lot of rock in federal prison, like the last time you sold illegal arms. I want advice, Mole, not to bring you out of retirement. Yeah, yeah, nobody loves me for myself, only my expertise. Well, I'd say the stock assembly design was Gerard, the Belgian, only he's dead 3 years. And this ammo feed system smacks of Chul Kim, a Korean, also deceased. One guy trained under both, based in Nairobi, Oxford grad no less, Kolo Mibea. Okay, Mole, I'll see there's some extra cheese for your rats. And the trail that began with 2 deaths during one rain-swept Gotham night shifts to another continent where a brilliant African sun drenches Nairobi's buildings, modern and ancient. Among them, this one. You must be joking, Manhunter. Under cover of this shop, I manufacture arms for black rebel groups I support. And since you're my father's friend, I also design your equipment. But joining and raiding some super organization's stronghold, hardly my style. Christine Asano and I need a good weapons man to back us, Kolu. You're the best. But my specialty is designing these. Anyone can shoot them. This council is nothing to me. I'll hold to my specialty. Weapons you can have, but not my personal. What? For the Batman, this seems the end of the line. Below is the shop of Kolu Mibea, and he has learned much about this man. Unlike most traffickers in arms, Mabea believes in the causes he supports. And if one such cause was a faction opposing Congola's new prime minister, Nadeli Kishimbo, then Mabea could well have provided more than the weapon of assassination. He could well have provided the assassin himself. Such are the Batman's thoughts as a deadly game unfolds, involving many players. No, Batman, don't let him get me. Listen, I'll tell you everything. But you got to protect me. The council ordered me to kill Kishumbo and see that it led to Mabea. I had to do it. Their new enforcer was watching every step of the way. It was his idea that attacking you here on Kolu's doorstep would clinch. I'm Paul Kirk. You may know me as Manhunter. I know you as a man said to be ruthless, but this is cold-blooded murder. As bad as the assassin you've. Yeah, he was gambling, but shouting the truth would make us listen, hesitate, until he was close enough to use this. He lost, but he would have stabbed you and used your corpse as a shield to escape from me. I've been threatened by knives before and came out of it without killing anyone or being killed. They tell me once is all it takes. We can talk about it inside. I'd rather talk about that group Kashumbo's killer mentioned. The council? Meet Christine St. Clair and Asano Natobi, Batman. We've become experts on the council. Piccolo here has a bit to learn. We best move to my workshop. The store is hardly ideal for a convention. As they descend secret stairs, Manhunter tells a story about 9 scientific geniuses who set out to save the world and ended trying to control it. And their organization is big enough to succeed. Asano and I are rebels from their cause. Christina's father died for failure in serving it. Now, they seem out to get you, Mabea, through their choice in assassination weapons. Manhunter, your raid on Council headquarters has just gained a new recruit. Make that 2. If the Delhi Kishumbo's death weren't enough, the Council also cost me a best friend, Dan Kingdom. Thanks, Batman, but no thanks. You have your own code and ways of operating. Within them, you're fine. But you're not a killer, and this is a killing mission. I'm afraid he's right, Batman. Against the Council's elite, it's the only way. I'm sorry. As an Interpol agent, I heard much about you. I wish we could have worked together. Your fellow professionals, I respect your decision, even if I don't agree with it. Goodbye, Miss St. Clair. With the coming of another dawn, they are ready. Paul Kirk, man of two eras, resurrected by the Council's super science. Asani Tanobi, master ninja instructor to Manhunter, plus Christine St. Clair and Kolu Mabea, four deadly experts moving toward the challenge of their lives. Two 1200 horsepower engines cough into life, and the mission begins. My company's private aircraft has all the clearances we require, but Asano best join me, since he's the only one who knows the exact location of the Council's hidden sanctuary. We get very quiet when we travel, Paul, and grim. It's when I'm most reminded how much the world has changed since my death back in 46. Except for meeting people like you and Asano, Christine, there's not much that makes me glad of being restored to life by the Council. It's part of the reason I fight them so ruthlessly. I didn't welcome death, but coming out of the World War II weary, disillusioned, I found a kind of peace in it. A peace the Council shattered. Long miles of ocean slip beneath the plane's gleaming wings as time slips slowly away from Manhunter and Christine. I owe Dr. Micros and his 8 fellow council members a good deal, Christine. Besides my peace, they stole the one thing that's any human's right, his individuality. They cloned me, duplicated me over and over, took my uniqueness and turned it into an army of ciphers. Each time I kill one of those damn clones, I feel like I'm reclaiming part of myself. I. Kirk, Miss St. Clair, Australia's great outback below. Prepare for landing. The plane sets down on a map. This area is the Gibson Desert, but for these new arrivals, it is enemy territory. Let's move, Kolu. Asano says this sector isn't normally well patrolled, but merely setting a few booby traps, it never hurts to be. Kolu, everyone down. They're behind the ridge. I'll draw their fire, Asano. You and Christine flank them. But, Manhunter, we can't just leave Kolu. I'm afraid Christine, our staying can't help him. Now let's get those. Wait, the firing has ceased, and much too abruptly to be natural. Correct. I only wish I'd arrived sooner, for Kolu's sake. Batman. But only Asano knew the way here. How? Something of a manhunter myself, Kirk. Now, do I continue operating alone, or do we admit, despite previous differences, that it's time we joined forces? Good. A bauxite mining operation north of here seems to hide the sanctuary's entrance, but it is too heavily guarded for direct assault. Come, you have scouted well, Batman, but some approaches only a man living over half his life with the Council could know. A ventilation shaft. A plan of battle is swiftly drawn, and the descent begins into the heart of the sanctuary. At some point they will be discovered. They know this. What is important is sensing when, before the enemy. So any challenge may be met and countered. Christine, that maintenance ladder. It can take us above the main chambers. We'll be home for. If you scale it, Manhunter, but surely, as I'm called the Enforcer, you won't. Healing factor or no. On your way, Manhunter. The Enforcer and I are overdue, settling Dan Kingdom's death. You know, don't you, Batman? You know who I am. Because you overused that knuckle strike variation, it gave you away in Gotham, and trying to use it now just sets you up for a counterpunch. Except one blow won't do it, Batman. Not even one from you. But Batman and the Enforcer are merely two combatants in a much larger battle. Elsewhere, Asano Natobi and a flailing Nunchaka figure vitally. He's bought us a clear ascent, Christine. Now we've got to see that it pays off. Behind Manhunter and Christine, another payoff looms. It's been fairly even, Batman, but you're starting to hesitate. Because you can't forget who I am. In the end, that's going to win for me. Yes, only I now realize that the man I remember no longer exists. I don't know how the Council corrupted you. Manhunter claims they dangle wealth, power, even extended life. Whatever, it made you completely the enforcer, not the friend I call Dan Kingdom. The Council may have planted a clone's body in Gotham's East River to cover your joining them, Dan, but it was still you who died. Meantime, this is the access hatch we want, Christine. Leads right to the raid's success or failure. Once I'm through it, I'll signal you to bring the others. If I don't, we get out fast as we can. I understand, Paul, but I don't like. Yeah, you're pro enough to do it anyway. Makes it much easier for me. No matter what happens, since once I face Dr. Micros, welcome home, my boy. That you've gotten this far confirms those abilities we admired in you from the start. Not that those abilities will save you from the death trap you've so blithely entered. Our council chamber has been vastly altered since your last appearance here, so even this rather vigorous cut off the head and the body dies strategy you and your allies attempt is doomed. This psionic helmet, which once merely maintained thought contact between me and my 8 fellow councilmen in their suspended animation capsules, now cybernetically links our combined mental force with the sanctuary's entire power and communication systems. Do you know what might that gives us? One brief thought can seal you to here. A stronger one can. Micros. You talk too much. 3 shots. 3 capsules preserving 3 old men for some future glory. Explode. Damn you, Paul Kirk. I'm done talking. Now I demonstrate what our strongest thought can do: convert radiation from the sanctuary's reactor into one searing bolt to contaminate and destroy you. Micros would like to gloat, exult, but there is no time. The psionic helmet makes him one with his fortress. Let's see him lets him see elsewhere, everywhere. Batman, it's gone wrong. Time to get out. They mustn't escape. They know the sanctuary's location now. All reserve forces cut off their retreat. Lord, Asano, I still live, but they will be upon us before I can lead you to the council's aircraft. Then, what? How can it be? Kolu! When he saw I wasn't fatally hit, Manhunter pinched a nerve to knock me out. I think he knew the rest of you wouldn't leave me, but that wounded, I'd jeopardize your chances. Like so much else he did, I question it, but can't argue with how it worked out. Let's find those planes. Yes, go to the hangar. You've finished our reserves, but the helmet can still self-destruct any area here. The witness now, the second resurrection of Paul Kirk. Micros. Meanwhile, the hangar, thank God. And one plane is a model I can handle. Let's go. All set, though I'd have sworn there'd be some last dirty trick. If there is, it is perhaps on the council. For the healing factor, their genetic surgery provided Manhunter has slowed the radiation, eating him alive. He moves with pain, with the certainty of approaching death, but he still moves, and therefore is still dangerous. Nice toy, Micros. If I hadn't knocked out 3 of the minds locked into this, you'd probably have burned me to a crisp. Wonder what I can do with it. Hate to think you might rebuild from all this, Doctor. No, you've hurt us, but you shall not destroy us. Watch me. And somewhere beneath the earth, against the resisting minds of 5 frozen men struggling to preserve a corrupted vision, Paul Kirk fights his last battle and wins. Self-destruction doesn't strike me as the council's style, particularly if it didn't include us. Then it was Manhunter. He said they'd robbed him of the only piece he'd ever found. I suppose, in his own way, he's taken it back. The end.